Hi, everybody. Okay, so making sure that everything works. Um, we are on day, gosh, it's been a crazy day again. 2050. How could I forget? 2050 days since our son was forcibly removed from the barracks room there on Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, and he was taken down to the basement room and his life was taken from him and his body was stolen Fort Bliss, off of Fort Bliss and trafficked internationally to Mexico to be disposed of. And evidence indicates his organs were taken, they cashed in. This is a U.S. Army soldier. This is individuals that are aligned, tied, connected to cartels. This is an act of war. This is an absolute act of war, legally speaking, what they did to our son. And I wanted to make that very clear tonight because we are really, we're getting ready to launch our lawsuits, and they're going to be epic. They're going to be epic, and so you have to come here to hear about it because this is what they did to a U.S. Army soldier. And I also wanted to address something that happened last night in a live stream. They asked if I have reached out to Candace Owens, if we had reached out to Candace Owens, and I wanted to address that in a little bit better way because, of course, a lot of these podcasters, they are monetized. We're not monetized, okay? Even though we just had a post that I think it was 6 million views. Um, we're not monetized. Um, and they are. And when you're monetized, you have to answer to certain people. You have a business that you're running. You're having to pay your workers. You have to be a little bit more careful. So when you're going after the truth, and I just want everyone to know that because we don't have to really collude with anyone to get to the truth. When you are getting to the truth brings you together, right? The truth brings you together. That's why Jesus brings everyone together. When you're a Christian, it brings everyone together because you're searching for the truth, right? And so, that is really important for everyone to know. The other thing that's very important for people to know is that Charlie Kirk, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, and many, many others, y'all, many others, I think probably all of them, have known for years about Richard Halliday. And that includes Alex Jones. Um, absolutely. Have known for years, Dan Bongino, for years about Richard Halliday. And they've known that this is an act of war. And one of them even met with our family, just to let you know. This is so big. And, not that they didn't want to say Richard's name, you know, um, it's just so big that they have people that they have to answer to. And they just don't want to mention Richard's name yet. It's coming though. It's coming. But I just wanted to let you know that every one of those know who Richard is. Okay, of course. And of course, President Trump, because we got a couple letters, one very important one right behind me. Um, so absolutely they know and everything. That's why I'm so pro Trump. We're so very pro Trump because ever since January 20th, 2025, and because this is so big, we're on like 28 agencies involved in this, right? I mean, it's and I'm sure I'm missing some because it's international. Um, they, they knew that this was an act of war, that they have to respond to it in that way. And ever since January 20th, 2025, we have known because of everything we've been through for almost 6 years that our country has been infiltrated, and not just only our country, but that Mexico has been infiltrated, that Europe has been infiltrated, that Israel, the Middle East, especially Israel, has been infiltrated. Remember, right before Richard joined the military, and I put up pictures, and you might not know this, we made a trip to Israel. It was amazing. It was amazing, and we got to see it for ourselves. We got to see it for ourselves, and so that gave us some insight when all of this started. And these rumors about Bibi Netanyahu, as we woke up this morning, that he had lost his life, and it turns out that his brother did, that his house was bombed. I think the truth will come out. His inner circle lives are being lost. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. And then when you think about Erika Kirk being thrust right into um, many investigations, ongoing and active investigations there in Colorado Springs and at the Air Force Base, where, just look that up. That is very interesting. And since January 20th, with the very first day, the designation of the cartels as terroristic organizations, and then fentanyl as a weapons of mass destruction, um, and on and on and on, um, and a, and then of course the raid during the summer of 2025 on Plenitude Crematorium, or the neighbors called in or whatever. Um, the arrest of La Diabla, whose family was working with Beto O'Rourke, the Plenitude Crematorium that exposed all of the funeral homes, not all of them, but all these different funeral homes, just about, and the whole purchase monopoly, right? The purchase, Arellano, Caron, Rivera, you know, Ramirez. I hope I'm saying the right name. Um, this whole and this comes into the Martin Funeral Home. This comes in to Fort Bliss with mortuary operations, with Solomon Anusa, right, over mortuary operations. Amber Chase having a history in mortuary operations, which is a very, very scary thought. And corroborates everything, all of this fraud in there, because she's just the worst. She's just the worst. Um, and and then of course Solomon Anusa is the brother of one of the very prime suspects that hurt Richard, Tavita Nusa, CID agent that in 2021 his credentials, his badge was revoked, and he was separated from the military. And of course, being family with Lilani Hart and another very close relationship. They're a very different family. They like to have very, very close relationship, very inappropriate close relationships with one another and multiple marriages, not what God expects, right? This is very sex cultish, and confessing to the worst type of crimes against children. And of course, Leilani Hart, who goes by many different names, her son is the prime suspect in our son's death, and his name is Dallas Wayne Hart. And she confessed about him doing the craziest things, unnatural things, sex cult things with family members and two children, and possessing videos of that. And that was in an affidavit. So, she needs to be arrested, and I'm waiting for all of these arrests. And so I think that they're coming. I want to play this one video for you all. Thank you so much. This is the dark side. Thank you, Willie Lee. This is the dark side of the military, especially from the Army, and how it is swept under the rug. Well, they participated in it. They participated, and I can tell you that 100% because of Nadal Baim, of being there. We went there and lived there for months, attended all the meetings, and they absolutely participated in this. And they participated in that whole Jeffrey Epstein Ponzi scheme, and all of the like the trafficking, weapons and equipment and this and that. And there's so many betrayals. I can tell you that Sean Bernabe is like, I don't know what he was transporting, what he was allowing to be transported, but he allowed 500,000 children to be trafficked through Fort Bliss after President Trump had Jeffrey Epstein arrested and Ranch was closed down. They moved operations over to on taxpayer expenses into Fort Bliss, and that is the emergency intake center. And who was over that? Like Ann Ogle, really? She's part of this, right? Um, um, Thomas Kane, the director of emergency services, he's part of this. Of course, Tugunan Chan, he's part of this. He was over that, and he was also involved in the Walmart mass shooting. I mean, so, these are very, very criminal, very bad actors in this, which corroborates everything that we have said, and the intelligence community. And so today, and I just posted it, and it's a whopper. It's a whopper. And here I am pretty calm. But it's a whopper, and I want to play a video. But the the paperwork that we receive from the CIA um, absolutely tells you in their speak, right? They never speak straight. They never speak straight unless they can totally deny, right? But in that paperwork, absolutely, it's a yes that Jeffrey Epstein was a CIA operative. So, what does that mean? That means, and because of other things that have happened in these last almost 6 years, that the CIA was conducting operations in the United States. Okay, that's what that means. Now, that's illegal. For people that don't know, the CIA is not allowed legally to conduct operations on American soil in the United States. Okay, this is a foreign operations. But, of course, they're all corrupted, they're all compromised, they're all think they're above the law, that they can work outside of the law. And we have been infiltrated. So we have people that don't really care about the United States, don't care about our oath of office, don't care about our history. And so they infiltrate these institutions. and they're up to no good. And so this really confirms that the CIA was conducting operations in the United States illegally. And so that is a whopper. That's a huge whopper. Um, so today, or 2 days ago, I believe it was, no, it was today, this video came out, and I want to show to you. It is about Plenitude Crematorium and why the world is not covering this. You know, you walk into a place and you have 400 plus bodies with signs of torture, some in uniform. Yes, some in uniform. And we even have information that some in American uniform. Um, our information is that our son's partial remains were disposed of here in this place. The owners, Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Caron, and her sons, Rafael and Jose Luis, they live in the United States. They're Argo Oil and Gas, they're Cano Steel. They have restaurants. They have a home right beside Beto O'Rourke. They have other homes. Raphael's ex-wife works there controlling the city magazine, right? She's in a position there with the city magazine, which, you know, we have some history with. Um, and and I could go on and on. Why are they given visas? Why have they been allowed? Why haven't they been arrested? Why are they hiding out in the United States when Jose Luis was arrested that day when, you know, the 400 plus remains there? They're reporting 383, but our intel, it's over 400 because of the skeletons that they dug up and everything. Um, you know, they were hiding remains. The remains were everywhere, rat infested, absolutely filthy, filthy, filthy. And they were flesh peddling, y'all. I I just don't know. It is such a sacrilege, and to think about my son's body being there. Um, and that, you know, and I have to face that, you know, every day. I have to face it. The evidence. I don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true. And you have the people that attacked us over and over again, cozying up to these monsters, and they're monsters. They are absolutely monsters. They're human flesh eaters or human flesh peddlers. They are, you know, they're just total monsters. And look what they did to our son. And that was an act of war legally. And that works for our to our position. Do I want it to be the truth? You know, I'd rather have a different answer, you know, but and you have the media there. El Paso Matters sharing an address with Oil, Argo Oil and Gas with Rafael Arellano Caron and Bob Moore butting up. I mean, it wasn't enough that Bob Moore, before Richard even died, when he was a whistleblower, and they went and targeted him, right, to try to entrap him and try to compromise him in some way, you know. But he would not be compromised. And Bob Moore, you know, we have lists of ways that he has lied about our son and our family and everything. And we've recorded it, we've submitted it. You know, so, and he's butting up with this flesh peddler, and he's, you know, he's like a narrative uh, propagandist. I want to say a word, but I don't know if I'm allowed to in the live stream. Um, so yeah, they are the worst type of of people, and their crimes are so severe and so blatant, that I really believe that they should be facing the death penalty. I really do. I just do. You know, can you imagine the sacrilege, the way they've treated these bodies, and for organ harvesting, for luring in pregnant women and doing these illegal C-sections. That's La Diabla, and her family was working for Beto O'Rourke. So they're all connected, and they are all connected, of course, to Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. And that's why I know that Fort Huachuca, and anybody that was really somebody, when you're years and years there, like Lori Frantzve and Erika Kirk, when you're that long there on that base and have the connections that they do that are just so monstrous, of course, you've got Jeffrey Epstein's pilot's daughter that is an Army officer stationed at Fort Huachuca having um, uh, a top secret clearance, working with them, working with our CAO, who was asymmetric warfare group, which is Fort Huachuca, and he was assigned to be our first casualty affairs officer. And we caught him using his military methods on us. This is an act of war. That's what I'm saying. What happened to our son and all the responses, and they were using taxpayers' money, they still are, to cover this up and to attack us and try to collude and conspire behind our back to shut us up. How can we shut up that family so we can get away with the blatant murder of their son and trafficking of his remains, and cashing in on it and taking his organs and dumping it in this terrible crematorium. And so I'm going to play this video for you.
Ciudad Juarez, the Attorney General's office reported that the number of identified bodies located in the crematorium called Plenitude has increased. Let's go to Ivan Ruiz, who has more details for us. Ivan, I'm happy to greet you. Go ahead, we'll be listening to you, comrade.
Good afternoon. Greetings from the Juarez border. Here on this border, authorities from the State Attorney General's office are announcing the status of this investigation and, above all, the number of identities they have obtained. So, of these 386 bodies were located in the crematorium called Plenitude. This discovery was made in June of last year, and in relation to the delivery of the bodies, it is reported that 414 of these bodies have already been fully identified, and 237 have already been delivered to their families, to those people who have claimed them too. This was reported this morning by the State Attorney General, Cesar Chauregui, who pointed out that of these 214 bodies, 7 of them have been identified thanks to the information provided through the website. In addition, jointly, the Director of Expert Services and Forensic Sciences of the Specialized Unit for the Investigation of Crimes of Danger Against Peace, Security, and People and Public Faith of the Prosecutor's Office in the Northern Zone, 207 of the families have already been notified that their loved one has been identified. Of these 207, 202 have already been delivered to their relatives who have received support and comprehensive care during the process. Likewise, it is reported that these people have filed at least 135 complaints for the crime of fraud against whoever is responsible. It should be noted that this crime is because these people were given the ashes of their loved one in the ballot boxes that they should have. Some were given rocks, others were given sand that is used for cat litter so that it wouldn't smell bad from that material. That was what they were given, and that is why at least 8 funerals are under investigation here in Ciudad Juarez, and that is why these complaints are being filed. In this case, there are still 172 bodies that need to be fully identified, or there are currently no detainees. One of them passed away there, inside the penitentiary center where he was incarcerated. And the other, the owner of the funeral home, was released last month at the end of February after a federal judge ruled that there was no crime to prosecute in this situation, and if there was, it was only an administrative sanction at law. And this person is originally from the United States and went to live in the city of El Paso, which borders Ciudad Juarez.
How outrageous, Ivan. What a story. Imagine if there were no detainees.
How shocking.
Really. We will be on the lookout and, of course, updating the other bodies, the identity of the other 100 bodies that are missing.
Thank you for the report.
Good afternoon.
Greetings.
Okay, so of course that was a AI translation of Spanish, and I should have said that to you. So there might be some mistakes and all of that, but the point is they're protecting the owners. They're protecting Rosa Maria Purchase Arellano Caron. They are protecting Rafael Arellano Caron. They are protecting Jose Luis Arellano Caron. They are protecting the Mormon faction cartel in alliance with the Mexican cartel that are part of this group that were the protection racket for Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, Jeffrey Epstein was a CIA asset, and the CIA asset was conducting CIA operations in the United States. And what they did to Richard, and Richard's all evidence indicates that partial remains are there, and that is an act of war, and this is how they're handling it. This happened in the middle of last year, right? Almost a year ago. And they're still trying to identify bodies. It's an outrage. It really is an outrage. And so Cesar Hargi, he's feeling a lot of pressure because of the amount of shares that our site gets. And also you saw there the families, other families relentlessly. And we have been told that they have gotten courage and protection because of what we're doing in the United States, highlighting what happened at Plenitude Crematorium. Because the media is totally controlled in Mexico and it is a narco state, a lot of those families would not be able to picket and to put in their many complaints if it wasn't for what you're doing and sharing what we're doing together to highlight this crime against humanity, this sacrilege. It's I just fall on my knees and pray to God, to forgive us, because my goodness, look at what they're doing. Look at what they've done. It's just so terrible. And so by facing this, and I just put out my photo bomb of all of these memes that we've put together, and we have on our Facebook so many articles exposing this. And the more that we expose this and put pressure on Cesar Hargi and Carlos Manuel Salas and Scheinbaum hasn't even visited that place. She's so afraid of the cartel because this is a narco crematorium. This is where they dumped bodies, okay? This is their disposal site. And how many victims from Jeffrey Epstein were disposed there, okay? It's just because this is their funeral home, right? And this reaches into New Mexico. This reaches into El Paso. This reaches into Fort Bliss. This reaches into, of course, Mexico. And here you have the owners profiting uh, on this, becoming millionaires on this sacrilege, crimes against humanity, and also on CIA operations. Okay? CIA. How many CIA operations were conducted where they needed to dispose of a body and they put it there, right? So because the the El Paso Mormon faction cartel made an alliance with the Mexican cartel, with an Iranian faction, with the Chinese faction. They were giving them visas. And with those visas, even Carlos Manuel Salas, who under Mexican law, he's the prosecutor for the North Zone, he cannot be resident in the United States, and yet he is. And he just registered his car, his Mercedes S-Class. He just registered that just recently. Again, he has residency there in the United States. So do all of these operatives, owners of this disgusting sacrilege and crimes against humanity, and Maru Campos and Scheinbaum. They're just, in the bathroom, I guess, in the bathroom, shaking all over, uncontrollably in fear. And, because this is really against Richard, it is an act of war, an act of war. And so President Trump was very, very right to treat it as an act of war. And he came in with, everything that he can do under the circumstances that we know absolutely existed. We're not making excuses for him. We knew that the State Department, that Jeffrey Epstein was having his sex parties there at the State Department in the consulate buildings there in Juarez. We know that Connell Wetton, the Mormon faction person from the colonies there in Mexico, had this huge position in the El Paso field office as assistant special agent in charge, and that he leaked our son's identity to the cartel because he's in alliance with cartel, and that the State Department and that the FBI, they were issuing visas, and they were also granting them protection. I'm not going to come and investigate you when you have a Connell Wetton in there. And so this was going on with the medical examiner, with the judicial system, and with Montoya. Okay, with Montoya. This is going on with Montoya. And you see how he is. He's totally, my gosh, there's no other way to explain that he got that position, because he's such a, um, I trying to be nice here. I'm trying to find, but I don't want to be nice to him. You see what I'm saying? So I'm just going to leave that blank, and you fill it in with the worst words you can think of, for, like dunce or whatever, because there's no other reason for him to be in that position other than that he's in alliance with the cartel, that he's in alliance with the El Paso Mormon faction cartel that are responsible. They are the protection racket for Jeffrey Epstein. And of course, you have Fort Huachuca and Fort Bliss. You have them absolutely controlling the airspace, allowing, with taxpayer money, all of the trafficking going on. And it is this network, this CIA operation, really, if Jeffrey Epstein is a CIA asset, which this paper clearly makes him out to be, then this CIA operation is what killed our son, is what is responsible for Charlie Kirk's death, is what is responsible for the attempts on President Trump's life. And so, that's how big this is. And it's so illegal. It's so illegal. So I hope that that makes sense because we've been doing this for so long that, it makes sense to us to see this deep state, right? This deep state that has infiltrated into our many agencies and institutions, collaborate and conspire together against the very people that are paying their wages, the very people that they are sworn to protect and serve. They work for us, and yet, um, and yet they are up to no good. Up to no good. That's yeah. It's absolutely crazy. So if you see individuals that are in this, okay, because I think that there are so many people in El Paso that know people that work with the FBI, that work with the judicial system, that work with the law enforcement community, that work in with the medical examiners, with the first responders, and that they are not with the cartel, right? That they are just trying to make a living, and so I'm trying to be very careful, and because I know, because so many have reached out, there are so many good um, people that had, none of us is good except for God alone, but those that don't want to be part of this, that have reached out to us to help us, and don't want to be part of the trafficking and the criminal conduct. Okay. So, yes, the institutions are compromised, but not all the people are. Okay. Not all the people are. And so that's why they have to have a protection racket, because they're so afraid of the people that don't want this. And um, but there are infiltrators, just like Jose Sanchez. Remember Jose Sanchez? He was infiltrated by a honey trap, right? A honey trap, and who had millions of, this big fleet of cars worth so much money, y'all. I mean, clearly, and she's just so connected to this whole group, right? Um, and then, of course, you see Charlie Kirk. That seems to be also a honey trap. That seems to be, it's almost like a CIA operation with Erika Kirk and her deep state activity ties. And I don't know any other way to say that. And anybody that's promoting her is really, it's like, okay, what are you trying to do here? And President Trump assigning her um, to the Air Force Academy. My husband and I, we were just looking at each other. Oh my gosh, Colorado Springs, because we've been doing this for so long. We know that the other hub of this El Paso Mormon faction cartel is Colorado Springs and the Air Force Academy. So to put her there, is like, okay, he's putting her under investigation. The other information coming out that are getting arrested and they're around these people and connected to these people. Yep, yep, they are. And we were surrounded with bad actors trying to get us to do things, to compromise us and everything. They come out, look at what they did to Glennon Oakley Jr. I think those videos of Glennon Oakley Jr. From the Walmart mass shooting case are such a good example of what I'm trying to say here, because there are paid operatives that will absolutely reach out to you and say, "Oh, I'm your friend and I'm just trying to help and this and that." And they are absolutely up to no good. So, it really it makes things hard because you have to vet everybody. They have to earn your trust and everything. And then I just can't even picture Charlie Kirk with Erika Frantzve now. I just can't even picture that how that happened with what we know today, right? But it does happen, and uh, and there's information coming out with more honey traps. I'm just letting you know that. Um, it is just very, very common in the intelligence world to do that. So, okay, let me see any kind of comments. Thank you, Laura, so much for translating this into Spanish. Thank you so much, Willie Lee, for coming on, and Marcy Williams. Thank you for your love. And broken heart, our heart is broken too, literally, sometimes. Whew. Um, Thank you, Anicia. Thank you so much for your love and your prayers. Um, your guardian angel, those lights. Oh my gosh, I love them. Um, Thank you so much, Laura. And, you know, um, please share. Please share. Share, share, share. It's making a huge amount of difference. And behind the scenes, with the sharing, with these live streams, with all of the information, plus with all of our filings, we're making a huge difference. And our goal is to bring Richard's remains home and to get accountability. And so that's our goal. Uh, and you're making it happen. Thank you so much. And we love you for that. Thank you. God bless you. And we will be back